Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Are You a Starseed? Explore your cosmic lineage and align with your galactic mission. My name is Stephen Dime, the founder and president of the Shift Network. And for many years, I sort of said, well, we're not going to go into the extraterrestrial or alien territory, we'll leave that to others. My concern was always that, is there enough of a path of transformation? But what's happened over the years is my inner guidance has started to shift, and there are more people who are very curious about this. And it does seem like there's a cultural ripening going on. And one of the faculty members who's taught a number of programs for Shift, who has really championed looking into this area and his deep experience, is our featured faculty today. Her name is Deborah King. She's a New York Times bestselling author. She's an energy medicine expert and renowned spiritual teacher. And we're going to get to go down the rabbit hole with her into questions around being a starseed and being connected as a soul to other lineages in the cosmos. And I think there's some profound implications for this work. So today's going to be an exciting day, and it's also the start of something that we're going to be exploring further, not only in her upcoming course, which you're going to hear about, but in other courses down the road as well. So this is the beginning of a new adventure for me and for Shift, and hopefully for you. So with that said, Deborah, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. This will be fun.
Great. Well, I want to, first of all, thank you for partnering with us on not only today, but your brand new program, Embrace the Gifts of Your Starseed Lineage. And we'll share more about that deep dive coming up. But let's begin our time together with a little bit about your history. I mean, you've shared various aspects of your spiritual journey and awakening, but let's really focus today on what led you to explore, be curious, and open to the potential of being a starseed.
Well, let me back up just a little farther than that and give myself just a bit of credibility because it is, sort of an out there topic. So I was this young lawyer in my 20s. I woke up with cancer. I wanted to try to deal with it without having the invasive surgery that was the treatment at the time. And so I looked around and I heard about meditation. And so I got into that. And then I stumbled on energy healing, and then I had this amazing remission at the hands of a healer. And with that, I did a hard left turn and started really down that path and looking at that hard. And flash forward, it's now been some 50 years. That's a field I've really mastered. Along the way, a really pretty strange thing happened to me. It's been maybe 10 years. I started to hear ringing in my ears and tinnitus. And so I went to a hearing guy, and he checked me out, and he says, well, I have no answer for you because your hearing is really ridiculously acute. In fact, you can hear as well as a dog. And I had noticed that my hearing was just getting better and better as the years went on. So I thought, well, okay, so Western medicine can't address it. I'll go to the Akashic Records. So I headed over there, and there I met this guide who said to me, well, it's obvious you've got this antenna installed above your ears. I'm like, what? I mean, I do have a really functioning left brain. The lawyer comes out and thinks, what is this? So I started to do a lot of research, and I have found that this guide was right on, that this actually was very correct information. So what I've learned is that I'm a starseed, and starseeds often have these extra functionings, these extra capabilities. And a lot of your viewers, Stephen, a lot of your followers and fans will have the very same kind of experiences. So there's clues. There's some obvious clues to whether or not you might be a starseed. For example, people who have more reoccurring dreams and visions that feel real to them, feel more real than their normal day life. That's sometimes a sign. People who can remember the future, that is, the dreams manifest. That's often a sign. Lots of people have dreams of flying outside their body. That's a sign. If time seems flexible to you, a little bit flexible, a little bit dynamic. If sometimes it feels like it's going really fast and then you can slow it down, that can be a tip. If you have a lot of synchronicities, if 111 or 1111 or something like that pops up all the time, like an alarm clock just for you? Or are you noticing that your sleep patterns are changing? That maybe you need less sleep and you wake up more and more at 2, 3, and 4 a.m. And then the thing I've noticed over and over about people who I feel are starseeds like me is that they have this burning inner urge to change the world. And they just feel so frustrated if they're not somehow accomplishing it. So for us starseeds, Earth is a place of service. It's not just a place to learn. And with that information that I got from the Akashic records, I swung back. I love to study science and history. So I swung back and I really delved into it. And I was fascinated that actually, scientifically speaking, I was way behind the curve. That that it all started. If you go all the way back, if you want to just think about a little bit of history, it starts with Galileo, right? He looked through a telescope in the 1600s, and he said, I have news for you all. Earth is not the center of the universe. And of course, the all powerful Catholic Church made him a subject of the Inquisition and threw him in prison for the rest of his life. So much for that idea, right? Well, if you flash forward, what's it been, 400 years? NASA's Kepler telescope just keeps finding the most amazing things. I'm sure you're probably as interested as I am in those pieces that you read. And then have you noticed that in the last few years, the subject of extraterrestrials is no longer wacko. It's no longer a forbidden topic. The military talks about it. Politicians talk about it. So therefore, we can talk about it. So, between changes in the culture, like what, 5 years ago, there was the movie Gravity. Um, how about Gordon Cooper, who claimed he saw another spacecraft? That was when he was in the Mercury capsule in 1963. So there's just all of this evidence now that there is life out there and that there's every reason to think that some of us came from out there.
Hmm.
So I'll take a breath here and
Yeah,
see if
there's a
you want
lot
to
to
ask me a
unpack in that.
question.
So,
There
so maybe
is.
share a little bit about what you've learned about the process. So, a starseed it may not be a term familiar to everybody, although they've been drawn to this. Is it so?
Uh-huh.
So the concept is that you're primarily sourcing from another extraterrestrial species, your soul, your kind of core consciousness, and then coming to this planet and choosing to incarnate here for service, as you said, or potentially for learning as well, or some sort of adventure exploration. How did like what have you learned about that process? Is there sort of like just a select few souls that are sort of like emissaries that then sort of decide to do this pilgrimage, and that most souls are evolving on planet Earth for longer periods of time? Just maybe share a little bit of that bigger context of what you've learned.
It seems that so many of us who are here came from some other locale, another plane, another planet, another star. In my case, I went so deep into it, I finally arrived at the conclusion that I came from Orion. That when I first thought of Orion and looked at Orion, I had this visceral response. I felt like I'd come home, like I'd found my family.
Hmm.
Finally, felt like I'd finally found my family. Now, what this does for me and what it does for those who are interested in this and follow this and study this is that they start to incorporate more and more, I think, of the information that's available to us from this other location from whence we originated, just as if we'd connected with our ancestors. I think
Hmm.
it's very similar.
Many of us are conversant talking about past life information. So if we incarnated into a Buddhist lineage and now we're in the West, we're different uh, different learnings that are happening, and perhaps service as well. So maybe you could share a little bit about what you've learned as you've explored Orion as a kind of star system and lineage. What sort of extra perspectives, wisdom, insights have you gleaned about the nature of reality and our role in it?
Mhm. Well, what I noticed, and it's been about 10 years since I stumbled on this. Every day I would notice, I wouldn't say every day, but periodically I would notice that I had a better insight into others, more so even than insights into myself. I would notice that I would have real understanding and empathy of other people to the point where And I know so many followers of our kind of work are becoming more and more sensitive to the needs of others. I currently am going through these horrific Los Angeles fires,
Oh wow, I
and
didn't realize you're close to those.
I am. And it just brings tears to your eyes when you see these thousands of people all in a parking lot right now, bringing goods, bringing
Hmm.
old clothing, bringing house goods, bringing food, bringing bottles of water, wanting to help, wanting to be part of it. And some of them have already had their home burned down, and yet they're there sharing whatever they can, helping out in some way. And your heart just explodes when you feel like you're part of that.
Hmm.
At a distance, you're sitting there watching it on TV. And the fact that I'm just a few miles away, and you might be 500 miles away, you're going to sense it just as deeply. So I think that when we connect to our star lineage, we really start to expand our awareness and connection to other people. And maybe we're doing it through our star lineage. I'm not sure. I don't have all the answers here. I'm still very much
Hmm.
a student of this work.
Hmm. Have you it felt like you've been able to bridge to specific other beings? So you're sort of in a inner communication or psychic communication with specific Orion sourced
I
uh,
have.
beings. Maybe
I
share a
have.
little bit
And
about that, how that evolved and how you started to build those communication pathways.
I kept going back to the Akashic Records, which I already knew how to do. So, and I've taken other people there. And so I started going back on my own. I would go about once a month. And each time the guide would meet me at the door and take me a little further. And it was wild because I would sense or see. I always want to clarify that your best sensing mechanism isn't necessarily colorvoyance. Your best sensing mechanism is usually your gut. And so I would sense these beings. Sometimes I would see them. They don't look at all like we do. So we have to adjust our expectation for the form. I remember being startled that the first time I saw an Orion, a friend or ancestor of mine, that he was as wide as he was tall, and he was unclothed, and she was really genderless. So I thought, well, we're kind of getting there here, especially the wide is tall.
What have you
Uh,
found? I mean, one of the things that I've been curious about in the last years, I've started to open to exploring this more, is what are some of the specific sort of wisdom insights that each species have for us? That like what? So it was what have you learned at like the specific gifts for humanity that Orion species might have?
well, and I know the Orions are the best, more so than some of the other. I've visited the Akashic records with some of my grad students on their behalf for the same reason, to connect them to their ancestors. And I think the message for each individual is very individualized. So I don't want to overgeneralize. Like in my case, it was all about bringing the heart in, that real connectivity, real expansion, real ascension is not going up, it's actually going in through the heart. I
Hmm.
think that's what I've learned the most from Orion, from my contact there. And so I think each person, once connected to their source, their soul planet, or their whatever part of the solar system they may be from, but can get a message like that for themselves.
Hmm.
I think it's different depending on who you are. Now, that course I'm going to be teaching for you, I would be going into that in detail with quite a few different sources and planets, helping people get the message they're looking for about the biggest question I'm asked by people is, what's my purpose, Deborah? What's my purpose? And I think yet once again, I found a way to help people determine that.
Hmm. So let's connecting the dots there. So if you are a star seed and you start to have the intuitions, feelings that connect, maybe open a
Mm.
portal of recognition through various means, how does that inform your purpose? You were saying it sort of moves from learning towards service oftentimes.
Exactly. Exactly. And I do think without regard to starseeds, I do think that's one of the things I notice the most about what leaves people feeling unsatisfied and kind of empty is that they can't get from the learning phase to the service phase.
Hmm.
And I think that becoming aware of and part of your starseed heritage can perhaps help with that step.
Hmm.
Seems to be a difficult step for a lot of people.
Hmm. So in many ways, it sounds like most of these other star lineages are more advanced, at least the
And
ones we're
we
in
are.
contact with, than we are. And so there's a step down almost to human
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, and that you're sort of trying to bring some of those higher capacities into humanity.
Oh, that's very well stated. I do think so.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think they're, I don't want to say talking down to us, but a bit.
Hmm.
I kind of felt that way when I was there and I had that contact, was that they were having to explain to me a little bit like I was a child.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Kind of like
And
we talked to our 5-year-old and we're saying, okay, yes, this is why you
yeah,
have to listen to your teacher, and
yeah, yeah, absolutely, just like
yeah.
that.
So let's go back to some of the signs. I think a lot of people are just curious about the possibility if they might be, or I think a lot of people have a vague sense that they're not from here. I've noticed that a lot, that there's like, oh, but they don't necessarily have a specific lineage, star system, planet, or
Mhm.
associations with that. How do you start to, first of all, investigate if that's true and have that felt sense, and then also focus in on which lineage or star system or star family you're mostly likely connected with?
Well, I think you just close your eyes and you go inside yourself and you say, do I really feel like I belong here, or am I always, fighting it really hard, trying to be part of this? I think a great number of people will acknowledge that it's pretty rough going for them, and
Hmm.
that maybe it always has been their whole life. Maybe even when they were in grammar school and high school, they remember not really feeling like they fit in very well. I think that's an indicator. And then from there, you would study the various stars that we know that I've researched, which are quite a few, and feel like which one fits. It's like trying on a dress. Which
Hmm.
one fits. And as I said, I had such a visceral reaction when I was introduced to my own. It was really palpable. I still remember it, and it was quite a while ago. And I think other people will have the same experience. They'll hear about the Pleiades, some system, and they'll go, "Oh my God, that's me. That's me." I think it's
Hmm.
intuitive. I think it's instinctive.
Hmm. And then once that intuitive recognition has happened, then what? How do you build on that to develop more of a relationship, access information, memories, that sort of thing?
The same way you do with ancestors, so, that you do with guides. Uh, you get an image. In this case, you might pull a great image off the internet of the star or planet or system that you're from, that you think you're from. You would look at it often, just like you would if you were trying to connect to your deceased great grandfather. You
Hmm.
would call out to it. You would set your intentionality to be part of it, to hear from them, to be connected. I mean, I would use all the same steps I use to connect to guides.
Hmm. And you
Hmm.
find that just the psychic connection, it really doesn't matter whether you have a discarnate guide on this planet or you're connecting with it. The process is similar.
Process is very similar.
Hmm.
And for those of us who seek guidance all the time, either through meditation or quiet quietness or prayer or whatever you want to call it, it's not hard. I didn't find this hard once somebody, in the Akashic records let me know that I was connected to these people. I couldn't wait to talk to them more and get their guidance. And so I went outside every night and looked at Orion, just found it in the night sky and learned how to zoom in on it very quickly. I always knew where it was in relation to my back door, for example.
Hmm.
It's
And
not hard
so,
for people to do.
yeah. And I understand that you also, so there's accessing information and communication with these other lineages. What about some of the things that have to do with healing? Maybe share a little bit about how you can also apply this connection towards different levels of healing.
Well, you can, just as you can with other guidance. And so I was not surprised to find that when I became pretty involved with the people from Orion, that they offered me uh, some healing gifts that I had not accessed before, and that's my field. So I was like, great, you've got more for me here. And for someone else maybe whose gift is with animals, for example, somebody who works with pets, they might find if they connect more fully with their star heritage that they're better at their job.
Hmm.
I usually find this with guidance. Is the guide is, the guides won't actively call out to you. You have to reach out to them,
Hmm.
but they want to help. We just have to ask. And I have
So,
found that these star guides are the same.
so have to, it also reflects your kind of ready for the
Your readiness,
your readiness. Yeah.
your willingness, we have to actively pursue these things.
I would imagine that there's some things that are set up almost as amnesia or blockages that we get in place if we're coming into a human field, and you would feel if you had all access to all that memory right away, you might feel completely isolated from your family or culture. Maybe share a little bit about how to sort of unblock what might be, blocking some of those memory channels or communication abilities to establish that connection.
The main way to unblock it is to and develop intentionality, to intend to be open and receptive to what's out there for you, to step out of fear. It's usually I've found fear is what's holding us back, and to be reassured, to do it in a group, for example, be reassured that you're safe and that you state actively and out loud, I am open. I want this information. I want this connection.
Hmm. Hmm. So there's a sincere desire, setting the intention, and then how do you sort of deepen the relationship over time?
It's all a matter of practice and repetition and regular repetition. And haven't we found that, Stephen, with all of our practices, right? And so many of us, we fall off as the year goes on, and we get to around period of the holidays, and we find out that our practices have suffered quite a bit during the year, whether it's an intentionality for exercise or prayer or meditation or reading. I mean, it can be anything that we said we were going to do, and then we find out by the 11 and a half months later we're having a hard time with it. So this is the same. This is every bit the same. And I think this is an ideal time of year, cusp of the year right now, to intend to make this connection
Hmm.
and
I know
intend
you
to
don't have,
benefit from it.
I know we don't have time today to go through all the different star lineages. Maybe give us a sample of a couple and some of the qualities or capacities that you've noticed seem to be connected with particular lineages.
Well, I think you probably are very familiar with Lemuria. Our 18th century scientists, thought that it was the first colony on Earth. Well, I don't think there's any doubt it was founded by the people who came from the Pleiades, and that's why we think of Lemurians as being so skilled with crystals. And so, if you have a penchant for crystals and feel, and I don't, but if you do, and you have this natural um, connection to them, and an interest in them, and want to hold them and collect them, remember that crystals store memory. And so maybe you are a Pleiadian, maybe you came from Lemuria. And then we could do the same thing with Atlantis, right? Atlantis is another legend, perhaps, but maybe it's historical for us. And I think it's part of our shared consciousness. After all, I think it was Plato and Thomas More and who else? Maybe Francis Bacon, that were big believers in the mid-Atlantic. It was a mid-Atlantic continent.
I mean, that's where
Um,
America was founded, looking for Atlantis in many ways.
True, that's really true. And the Lemurians probably were there and most likely had such a deep connection to nature. And Atlantis was highly advanced technologically and with science. And so we have to ask ourselves, did they do themselves in with their elaborate crystals? Did they over control themselves in society so much with their crystals that they imploded, that they destroyed themselves? So that has to do with those of us who came from probably the Pleiades, and so that's one of the biggest star systems out there that I think a great number of people will have feeling that they're from, because they may very well have had a life in Atlantis or in Lemuria.
Hmm. So in many ways, if we go back far enough, his soul's probably is it's people who think of themselves as star seeds or relate more to being star seeds, maybe that most of humanity ultimately is, ultimately sourced from other lineages at some point.
Well, maybe we all are, because
Hmm.
look, the American Indians think so,
Hmm.
that we're all we have star ancestors, every one of us. So that's very
Hmm.
possible.
Hmm.
And the more you study this, the more you uh, absorb it and start to believe it, the more likely that seems. That seems
Hmm.
very likely to me.
Hmm. What have you, so you talked about sometimes feeling like you don't fit in or isolated from the culture. So what have you seen on the other side as people really claim this connection and explore it? What shifts in terms of their sense of identity or belonging?
A deeper sense of belonging, much deeper sense. Not
Hmm.
sure I can answer the identity question, because I think that would vary a lot from person to person. But um, I have noticed in myself and in others who've delved into this and studied this and tried to connect to their star planet, that they just have a bigger sense of feeling like they're part of, not sure what we're part of, but definitely part of, connected.
Hmm. I know you want to take us on a bit of an experiential journey today and make some connections. So you want to set that up and then guide us on that energy opening
And
meditation?
oh, I'd love to. I thought we were just talking about Lemuria and Atlantis. I thought maybe we could go there for a moment and kind of go from there, because I do think that that's somewhere so many of us have already been. It might be an easy jump from there to your star home.
Great. Why don't you jump in with that?
Okay, I will. So I would suggest that you close your eyes, and we'll kind of take ourselves into this. Perhaps it's a cellular memory, probably deeply buried in our DNA. And I would go straight to the heart chakra, right in the center of your chest, and I would tune into it. It's a focal point of energy. It's moving. It's healthy. It's bringing energy in from your environment. It's sending good energy out. And then I would go from the heart. I'd go right up to the thymus gland, just above it, not but kind of midway between your breastbone and your throat, and put your focus there. And this thymus gland, we want it to enlarge. We put our intentionality on it. It's a seed of our spiritual development. And so it grows the more we intend for it to do so, and uh, sends out good good things all over our body, our thymus gland. And then I would take you to your pituitary gland. It's up in the brain, just behind your nose. And from there, I go to the pineal gland. That's just behind the pituitary and slightly up. And from there, we go right to the top of our head, to our crown chakra. Right at the top, there's always a ball of light there. And we can, using our awareness, we can reach up for it and intend for that ball of light to drop down in front of our eyes and right down into our heart. And so breathing that light in and out of your heart, let's intend to meet up with our star ancestor. Just assume that star ancestor is waiting right here to meet you. And now that you've met them, in your inner awareness, you can always instantly pull them in. And with our star ancestor, let's take a little trip. Let's just head over to Peru, to Lake Titicaca. And together with me, very safely, and with your star ancestor, we'll head right into the center of the lake. And as we go into the water, we no longer have those three-dimensional bodies that kind of hold us down. Our vibratory frequency has really increased. So now we are multidimensional. And with me, let's approach that subterranean city. You see it there. You hear the sound of that Peruvian flute music. It's haunting, it's ethereal. And the city we see, that's the home to the illuminated ones, our star ancestors. It's a fifth dimensional city. We don't see it with our three-dimensional eyes. And this is where the golden disk of Muru is kept. So thousands of years ago, the star beings came and they built our civilization of Lemuria. Such a peaceful kingdom it was. And there were people from many different star systems across our entire galaxy who seeded that planet in that place. And even the wise ones knew, though, after some time, that an upheaval was coming for Lemuria when the poles shifted and the lake that we're in was formed. And so we brought the sacred scrolls here and we hid them in this underwater sanctuary. And the Incas knew this, and they built their ceremonial center right here at Machu Picchu. They're right on top of the ruins of Lemuria. And that's how they built it, from those big stones. They cut it with light. So keep your heart open and your mind open to this new perspective, this new idea of where you're from, and know that it's much more than we were taught. So those myths that we hear from the indigenous members of our society, they know the true story of our star ancestors, and that there's continued visitation here on Earth by star beings. So just listen in the silence, and as our star ancestors begin to recede, our Orion guide has also stepped away. But just know that whoever visited you in this moment, in this quiet, that star ancestor is from your home star and will continue to talk to you. Okay.
Hmm. Well, that was truly fascinating. So what do you
Did a little
recommend doing and
tour.
build? What's that?
So we took a little tour.
A little tour, yeah. What do you recommend doing with what came for each person?
I would add it to my meditation. I would focus on it just before I started to meditate, just for a moment. Just intend to connect to your star lineage, as you
Hmm.
may have just done in this brief experience we had.
Hmm. And Lake Titicaca, I thought it was interesting that you had us focalize there. Anything around the lore or connection points on the Earth that feel particularly important?
Oh yeah. Besides Lake Titicaca, there's and close to you is Shasta.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, Shasta has great meaning. Very likely occupied by star ancestors.
And so is it important just to bring it into the meditation or actually travel to those locations to anchor a physical connection?
Probably both. I traveled there. I actually have skied off the top of Mount Shasta a couple times. And there's a cave right, I know, there's a cave right at the top. You have to do this in July, by the way, not in the wintertime. But there's a cave right on top, and I could really feel the vibration inside.
Hmm,
Hmm.
really powerful.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so maybe I'd love to hear more about how you personally continue to develop in the relationship over time with Orion and how that translated into other work and service in the world.
It has. It's just been one more impetus, just one really good connection, just as I had with other guides throughout my life.
Hmm.
It was just one of
Right.
the, it was, this was one of the later pieces of guidance I got. I
Hmm.
probably wasn't ready for it when I was younger, Stephen. I doubt I would
Hmm.
have been open to it.
Can you share any more about how to open sort of our whole energy field to more healing capacities, to certain insights and guidance that really helps to bring more of this into our lives?
But the best way is to have a really strong connection to nature. I am always encouraging people to get out of the gym, get outdoors. Spend a few minutes with trees or sitting on the grass or listening to the ocean, wherever you are. Even in a big city, you can find a park. I think we're way, way, way disconnected from nature, and I think it's hurting us. And it definitely interferes with our ability to expand our energy field because we are part of nature. And so if we're disconnected from nature, we have a really hard time uh, uh, activating and staying present with the lower chakras in our field. So we don't want to be floating above it. We want to be present
So it's like the nature connection activates our lower chakras. How then to open some of the higher chakra insights and guidance?
with meditation or music,
Hmm.
and then use the whole thing for service. It's just not for us to sit around and enjoy. We're meant to take it all out and help people in some
Hmm.
way. Help people or animals or the environment. Help in some way.
Hmm. I want sure, yeah, I would love for you to share a little bit more about that. We use the term galactic mission today, so it's sort of differentiating from just our Earth mission,
Hmm.
if you will. Like maybe share a little about what you've learned or seen about these kind of larger missions that transcend a particular planet.
That's a really hard question to answer because again, it's so individual. My
Hmm.
own experience has been that I felt an explosion or implosion in the heart. I just
Hmm.
felt a lot more connected, and for some reason, that made me feel a lot more connected to other people. I mean, that's a little bit ironic, right? I'm connecting to star beings, which somehow is making me feel more connected to the people out on the street.
So the galactic
And
mission becomes very personal in the heart then.
I think it does for each person.
Mhm.
And for someone else, it might be an entirely different mission.
And as you've taught more in this area and talked to more people, what have you seen was some of the other people that creating their own unique version of mission here on planet Earth? Just love to hear more about what you've seen.
I have seen some pretty encouraging results with some students who've taken this information and not just from a point of curiosity, but really applied it, to themselves in their own lives and their own work. I get reports back that things seem to be working better, as my experience was with. I noticed my ability to work in the healing field increased. I had a student who's in the Netherlands who's written 2 books here in the last year. Pretty impressive, too. And they're good. And I think she would attribute it to her increased connectivity and her connection with the stars.
That's really exciting to have that kind of impact in your life. Well, I
Hmm.
think that gets us to the whole question of really bringing out the gifts of this potential connection, since I think the curiosity can lead to enhanced service, as we've talked about. So I think now would be a good time to talk about your upcoming program in a little more depth to give a sense of what you're going to be teaching and the opening that people can have as a result. So Deborah's agreed to teach a brand new program for Shift. It's called Embrace the Gifts of Your Starseed Lineage.
connect with your star ancestors, identify your home star, and align with your galactic mission.
You can find it at the URL starseedcourse.com, starseedcourse.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites. It's really based upon if you just have this kind of vague sense of not always fitting in, of coming from elsewhere, and want to go deeper into what that means for you and your service and work on this planet. So, Deborah, I'd love for you to share some of your intentions for the program and what you are planning to have people come away with. And then, well, let's give a tour of the modules after that.
Well, I want people to come away with a sense of what it means to them, in an individual way. And so we'll talk about, first off, we'll go into a fair amount of detail about what is a starseed, and get people familiar with the signs and steps, and so they can apply it to themselves. And then we will talk about individual planets in quite a bit of depth and detail, and let people choose. That's not that one, it's this one that most seems to work best for them. I'm also going to talk about star children, which I've noticed people have a great interest in. That they're really convinced their own children are probably star children. It's You're a parent, you probably have a lot more familiarity with this than I do, and it just seems to be incredibly common.
Yeah, we think I had kind of an interesting thing that with Sienna in particular, our eldest, talked a lot about being in a kind of university or academy um, before she came to Earth. And she said, and there were extraterrestrials there. So she didn't say she was an extraterrestrial, but she did talk about them as sort of classmates in this school, which I thought was very interesting. And, indicative that there may be some preparation that's going on in exchange before pre-incarnation as well.
Isn't that interesting? It really is. I have a nephew who I'm positive is a starseed, and that helps me and his parents deal with the fact that he's also somewhere pretty far along on the spectrum. He's got all kinds of challenges, and yet he's got this brilliance at the same time. It's very, very recognizable. It's
Hmm.
fascinating.
Yeah, there's actually
Hmm.
a new series, a podcast out that's explaining the psychic abilities of autistic and on people on the spectrum, and
Uh-huh.
just that they're actually like highly developed in terms of psychic skills. Well, there's quite a number of them are at least.
Yeah. No, we're really seeing that.
Yeah.
And then this may also be the answer for someone who's attending this class, is that they think, okay, that explains my challenges all my life, right? My own challenges. So, what I'll hope to do in this course is, really help the student prepare their energy field for this information about their starseed origins, really help
Hmm.
them dial into it, and to uncover and then be able to apply the key traits of star seeds. And then we'll take that and we'll try to do healings with it. That's always my goal. I don't, not just informational, I want to apply it. I want to
Hmm.
apply it, help
I
people
love the practical
change.
focus. So
Right.
module one is called Discover Your Cosmic Essence to Awaken Your Purpose. What all are you going to be covering there?
Pretty much what I just mentioned. I think we'll uh, talk about the various stars, and then each session I'll go into a different one.
Module two is called Connect with Sirius's Ancient Star Wisdom to Ignite Your Courage and Spiritual Willpower.
And there are lots of serious people out there. So Sirius has got a lot of, I think, a lot of active participants here on Earth who seem to become activated if they just simply focus on the star.
Module three then goes into Identify Your Cosmic Home to Discover Your Starseed Mission.
Yeah, and by module three, Stephen, we've discussed a number of different stars at this point. People can pretty much know where they belong and zone in on their own cosmic home. We'll be doing guided exercises along the way, a lot of guided meditations to help people really drop in more deeply.
Can you share a little bit more about why really connecting with that cosmic home is so important in this work?
Well, that's the purpose of this course,
Hmm.
because I have learned personally, and as I mentioned with a number of students, that we become more expansive and more ourselves. We bring more of ourselves in. So a large part of ourselves is stuck up in higher chakras. It hasn't downloaded into our personality in this lifetime. And so I think by connecting to your home star, you might put some impetus on that eighth chakra and get it to, it's just a big body of like electronic knowledge, get it to download so you can operate from it.
Module 4 then goes into align with your starseed mission to embody unity, consciousness, and compassion.
I just worked with unity consciousness in a class just the other day. So here's my experience of unity consciousness. It's momentary. So, the Christ was in unity consciousness all the time, 365 days a year. And his field was that open. It was every aspect of his field was open 360 degrees, and ours isn't. So unity consciousness is the ability to look at someone and see that they're unified. You don't see their good traits and their bad traits. You only see the one unified beauty of the individual, and they look beautiful. Now I can only hold it for a moment or two, maybe 5 minutes, because it takes a lot of energy to hold unity consciousness, because we haven't ascended to the unity field yet. People with training can swing up there and spend up to 5 or 10 minutes there and actually look at the world through those eyes. It's a very different view. You don't see them and us, or him or her. You just don't see those divisions. You don't see that polarity. You don't experience it at all. You just experience this big unified, beautiful thing. And that module 4 will be a real bridge where I'll hope to really help people experience that. And when you're in unity consciousness, you're super compassionate. So I would tell people that if you have that feeling of incredible compassion right now while looking at these people that have lost their homes in the fire, that's a moment of unity compassion where you can't just stop sobbing. You're watching something, that you're not part of. Not really, except you are really, because we're all connected. We're all connected.
So you find that that's sort of a unifying aspect of all starseeds that all share this focus on unity consciousness?
It is. They're just more advanced than we are.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, all of the star systems are more so than Earth.
Then we go to module 5, activate your cosmic gifts to nurture and empower star children.
Well, I just mentioned that I will spend a module talking about children so that you can consider that with your own family members and loved ones and kids on the block, and how we could help them better and not see their uniqueness as a handicap, but more as a gift.
In module 6, align with higher beings to elevate your spiritual evolution.
Well, now we're getting to the point where we're pretty connected to these star guides. So we'll spend some time actually connecting with them, intending to have a deeper connection.
Mm-hmm. And how do you establish that deeper connection? Share more about that.
Oh, I do it with intentionality. I would do a guided meditation here.
Great. And then module 7, you go into elevate your awareness to align with unity consciousness.
Well, here I would hope to apply it all, apply everything we've learned. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, I know you're going to have a lot of different dimensions. Anything else you want to share about some of the experiential exercises you'll be guiding throughout the 7 weeks, or specific things people will be doing at home?
Well, I think we're gonna have to kind of tie people down a little bit, because it's this whole body of knowledge. When I first encountered it, it does kind of make you float off the planet. So I'll help people. That's why I mentioned grounding by experiencing nature in the outdoors. I will be encouraging people to do that simultaneously, so that we don't float off too far. We want it to be a controlled trip, so to speak.
Great. Well, there's more detail on each of these modules in the flow at starseedcourse.com. I'll share a few of the things about it. So you get not only the 7 90-minute live sessions with Deborah, you're also going to have time to ask your questions live. You also get recordings for every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts, which are really helpful for going back and catching up with perspectives and practices that you might have missed or would need to refresh. There's also weekly exercise for home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll also see a number of great extra bonuses as well. There's a PDF from Deborah called Your Personal Healing Plan, a guide to cosmic self-care. Want to share a little bit more about that PDF guide?
I want to help people combine the connection to the earth with the connection to the cosmos, because I think we can make the most impact in this lifetime and in our care for others by being connected to both. I think if we get too skewed either way, we don't have the opportunity to do what we came here for. So we incarnated on this planet because we wanted to see if we could expand our connection to source. And the source is both inside us and outside of us. And that's why we grabbed this body and came to have this lifetime. And here's, I think that connecting to your star source, is one more way to really enhance that lifetime we have right now, right here. That one of my teachers, she was elderly when I met her and passed on, but I've never forgotten. She said, "Death is not your friend." It took me a long time to figure out what she meant, but what she means is we really got to take every day and really make it matter. And I'm so busy. I bet you'll relate to this. I'm so busy helping people every day that I completely forget that I'm 77 and have a few aches and pains. Who has time to think about that stuff when you're so busy making the world better, making change? I think so. So I really encourage people in that way.
There's also a second bonus on the page. It's a healing audio bundle. This includes forgiveness and self-love frequencies. This is audio that Deborah has created. You want to share more about that bonus?
They're great for going to sleep with. They're audios that you can listen to when you're having trouble going to sleep, that plant a seed during the night of loving yourself more. The biggest problem I see with people moving up spiritually and expanding on their desire to ascend at some point is that they don't like themselves enough. And I really urge people to get rid of those things that you did that you were still disliking yourself for, whether it was the abortion or the divorce, or you didn't finish college, or you didn't go to your father's funeral, whatever it may be. We really have to forgive ourselves, or it gets totally in the way of you being the person you want to be. So that's what those are about.
It's a great, it's very important work. And then finally, we have one special bonus that folks get if you sign up by midnight tonight. This is audio from Deborah called Taoist Microcosmic Orbit Clearing. Activate your energy channels. So drawing from a different lineage than we've talked about, Taoism, but this is a profound energy practice. You want to share more about what folks get in that bonus?
Well, I looked at that when I chose it, and I thought, oh my God, those guys were Starseeds, those early Taoists that came up with this really fascinating exercise, which is what this bonus is. It's a really interesting exercise that leads you to go inside yourself and push a ball of energy, basically, from one point of yourself to another. Are you familiar with it, Stephen? Have you already done it?
In terms of the
Maybe.
microcosmic, or yeah, I've done a little bit.
The orbit. Yeah. So this is just a kind of an advanced version of the orbit. And I have found some radical improvement in people from using it. So that's why I wanted to provide it as a bonus. I love it as an exercise.
Well, that's our extra bonus. If you sign up by midnight tonight, you'll get that special Taoist microcosmic orbit clearing when you go ahead and sign up now. So again, the whole program is laid out in more detail at starseedcourse.com. And in addition to everything we've discussed, you're going to get to engage with a whole community around this work. And since this is breaking new ground, it is opening up new possibilities for people. Just being able to discuss that and share with other people is going to be really vital. We've also kept the investment for this program very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. So the course begins on February 20th and runs Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. And on the page, there's lots of wonderful endorsements of Deborah King's work from people like Marcy Scheimoff, Louise Hay, Greg Braden, as well as all kinds of students over time. She's had thousands of people go through her shift program. So you're in really good hands, and you will experience a real sense of liberation into a new possibility for your soul and your life here on planet Earth. So again, it's all at starseedcourse.com, and you get that special microcosmic orbit clearing when you sign up by midnight tonight. So Deborah, we're at the end of our time together. Really fascinating exploration here today. And anything you still haven't shared with us that you want to, make sure people hear today, and anything for folks who are considering doing the full course with you as well.
Well, I hope people will do the full course, because we're just barely tapping on the surface of it here, Stephen. And it's revolutionary. It's radical. I thought that when I first came out with it, not that many years ago, that I was being fairly brave, because it's still a little bit out there. But have you noticed that just in the last couple of years, it's become more and more accessible and accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I'm very excited to teach us. I'm thrilled for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for doing so. Thank you for being brave and being out front on these matters and
Mhm.
helping to open up new possibilities for healing and awakening for so many. So thank you, Deborah, and thank you all for joining. And if again,
Thanks
all
for
the
having
details
me.
for the full program are at starseedcourse.com, and the name is
Embrace the gifts of your starseed lineage. Connect with your star ancestors, identify your home star, and align with your galactic mission.
So thank you so much. Many blessings.